Welcome, everybody, to the Out of Home Insider Show, a podcast like no other, hosted by the one and only Tim Rowe. Get ready to have some knowledge.
Joe DiRico is the founder of the more than 600 Discord community called Prompt Jockeys and also host of a podcast under the same name. He's also the founder of Couch Money RevOps, and this is my appearance on his podcast.
What up, Prompt Jockeys? We are back, episode 3 of the pod, and today we have a special one. We have one of our very own from the Discord community, Tim Rowe, creator of OOH Insider, here to educate us on everything out-of-home advertising related, educating the Zoomers on the potential opportunities that the physical world has to bring. So excited to have you on, brother. Thank you for joining.
Excited to be here. Excited to have found this great community and be a part of it and join here on the pod.
Hell yeah. Would you mind giving a little bit of an intro as to what out-of-home advertising is? Because we got a lot of Zoomer digital natives like myself who have been glued to their computers for the last 20, 30 years, and we have forgotten all about what exists in the physical realm.
Well, that's the world that I come from, so I totally get it. Out of home is a terrible category. It's really anything that you see offline. It could be a billboard, it could be a bus shelter, it could be a wrapped truck, it could be a flyer above a urinal. It could be absolutely anything in the physical world, which is why it's kind of a bad category and clunky and hard and is still really untapped, which is an exciting opportunity, obviously, as a marketer.
Well, first off, you and my dad would be good friends because my dad is a big brick and mortar guy. He's had a restaurant for the last 30 years. And anytime I tell him, like, we're doing crypto, we're doing AI, he's like, you and your friends are idiots, like brick and mortar. He's like, if you ever seen like Arrested Development, like there's always money in the banana stand, like type
Sure.
dude. That's my dad. So you guys would get along well.
Yeah. No, and you say he's got a restaurant too, right?
He's got a restaurant. Yeah. And he understands he understands AI, he understands crypto, all that stuff. But at the end of the day, like, people got to eat. People got to go to work. So we're in this mindset of like, I'm going to do digital marketing. I'm going to get in front of the entire world. But in reality, your audience is going to be walking past the subway billboard every day, twice a week in the entire year. So you got to understand where the audience is. And that's why I'm excited to learn more about what you're working on, because I think there are opportunities, especially for us degens of the world, to kind of come in and shake things up utilizing these sorts of strategies.
Yeah. And I think that the biggest thing for me was like the mindset shift. I came from the traditional agency world. I'd bought and sold a lot of TV and radio, direct mail, things like that. We're doing a lot of Facebook ads, Google, kind of doing all of that stuff, and then ended up going to work for a billboard company. And as the digital guy working at a billboard company, I was a bit skeptical. Like, all right, these things are big, big pictures on sticks on the side of the road, but is it targeted? No. Is it measurable? No. So if you can't measure it, why do it? That's really the school that I came from, and was working at the billboard company. And there was a nonprofit group that helped homeless men get back on their feet. And it was the summertime. I would later find out it was their slow fundraising time of the year. If you've ever worked with or for a nonprofit, obviously their goal is to raise money because that's their lifeblood, right? They don't have traditional revenue like a business would. So they're always trying to raise money. But in the summertime for this nonprofit, it was their slow time, and they decided to do some billboards. I was in on the meeting and I asked for Google Analytics access. This was still in the times of universal analytics circa 2019. So things were a little different, but what I saw over the next 4 to 6 weeks was everything go up, and like up in really significant ways. Direct traffic to the website up 30%, average website donation size up 90%. All of the key conversion goals were just completely off the chart. So called the marketing director and instantly was curious, hey, are you doing anything else? And she told me, no, we're just doing the billboards. So that's when I really got curious. Like these must be signals of whatever the billboards are doing. I still don't understand what they're doing, but something's happening here. And then I had to keep pulling on that thread. So changing the perception on how is it going to show up, right? It's not linear. It's not going to show up as a click in my analytics. But when you can get outside that and understand, hey, this is a big canvas. This is a place that I can put a message up on a really, really big piece of real estate. And kind of like aligning back to the story about your dad, having ownership of something in the real world, I think is a really, really powerful brand positioning statement to have in 2023.
Yeah, and a lot of, I mean, myself, and I think a lot of people in our community are big fans of The Hustle and Sam Parr and My First Million. And years ago, I remember Sam Parr saying that when he was starting The Hustle, he wanted to understand like the history of media. And he started looking at guys like Ted Turner and Rupert Murdoch. And Ted Turner's dad owned the Billboard business. And then
It's
Ted
true.
Turner took that over and ended up turning it into CNN and the Atlanta Braves and Turner Broadcasting and all that stuff. So br- billboards have their roots and did give birth to the modern media landscape that we see today.
And you even see it reflected in, for anyone that's done any sort of display advertising, and then you look at the names of the ad sizes, right? You have a billboard size ad, ad display, or leaderboards, and all these different sizes, but they all take their root in out of home, right? They've just been converted into really small picture format on our phones
Yep.
that we carry around. So it was that, and then also seeing how like a DSP like the Trade Desk, seeing how they position display advertising, understanding that the goal of display advertising isn't necessarily as a traffic driver, but as a brand builder. So
Correct.
if you can find a physical piece of real estate to do that, then I think that that's a good opportunity to kind of plant a flag.
100%.
To me, you've said it to me already. I want to know, Tim, if you don't mind, how would you go about, say, if you've never had a billboard campaign, you've never done anything like this before. How do you get into it as someone who mainly would do online marketing? What's the order process like? Do I have to make phone calls to a company, a billboard company? Is there someone who handles the distribution to, hundreds of different locations? What does it kind of look like from going into it completely fresh?
I'd say it depends on two things: your pain tolerance and your budget. Pain tolerance being like, how much manual work do you want to do? If you're planning a multi-market 6-figure campaign for a brand, then
Mhm.
it probably makes sense to do a little bit of legwork. Maybe you want to work with an agency. Maybe there's just a few specific partners that would make a lot of sense for you to work with. I've actually put together a little directory. You can visit tryadscout.com. There's a bunch of companies kind of listed there: wrapped car companies, wrapped truck companies, things like that. So you could piece it together yourself if you kind of have a budget that's on the bigger scale. You could also deploy that money via programmatic DSPs. You could just say, hey, I want to buy a bunch of impressions in Walmarts and on street kiosks and things like that. So those are some of the avenues there. But particularly for like the DGens, like, I'm a scrappy marketer at heart. That's who I am. And those are the opportunities that got me most excited when I started playing around with out of home. So there's a platform called Blip Billboards. And as far as I'm concerned, I've tested all of them. This is the best one because it's pay per play. So it's most similar to a Google Ads campaign where you're going to pay each time your billboard runs. So you're paying per billboard flip. That's why it's called Blip, a billboard flip. And what's neat about that is you can optimize your day parting schedule. So you could say, hey, I want to only run on Mondays and Fridays between 6 a.m. and 8 p.m. So you can set all of that up. You can optimize bid strategies. What I think is really interesting about that is you can select a group of billboards and then deploy that strategy against the group of billboards. Or the really, really exciting opportunity is to do each individual billboard as its own campaign. Because what you'll find is when you do each billboard as its own campaign, there's all of these opportunities to exploit how undervalued the billboards really are. So let's say that those are the really valuable times, 6 in the morning till 8 at night. If you wanted to buy that, let's say, digital billboard from the digital billboard company for a month, they might say, hey, it's $3,500 to be one of the 8 advertisers in this rotation. You're like, I don't have $3,500. I've got $5 a day. Cool. Go on Blip. Think of it just like any other digital marketing you've done. Where do I want to target? I want to target in this city. I want to be close to a Walmart, right? Like, you could do all these things for yourself really, really simply. Get in there, set up a low budget, find one billboard, and then you start optimizing bid strategy and day parting. And what you're going to find is,
I want to say they need to do a bit of an online campaign because I've never heard of Blip.
well, so, and this is again, this is part of that like exploitable value is they target small local businesses, and that's really who they're built for.
Yeah.
They've never, the types of campaigns that like we're describing right now, I've run them before for big brands with big budgets. And I can tell you that I'll give you a very direct example. There was one specific digital billboard in Salt Lake. We had priced it out as $4,000 to be on that digital billboard, to be one of the 8 advertisers in the rotation. That's generally how many advertisers there are. It's about 8 in the rotation. $4,000 to be one of the 8. Really, all the brand cared about was 6 in the morning till 8 at night.
Yeah.
We ended up playing in 2 slots. So essentially having the equivalent of 2 spaces. We were buying so much space during the day at 1/4 of the price. So we spent $1,000 to essentially run $8,000 worth of media. That's the type of opportunity that's there, but it comes with the level of, all right, I'm willing to accept that this isn't going to show up in my analytics the way that I'm used to. I'm going to have to think a little bit outside the box.
You have to think out the box to really track your conversion rate, I guess. And
yeah. So Tim, talk to me about like I saw some companies that are attempting to measure this sort of advertising the same way that they do with digital, right? So talking about the exposed visitation rate and things like that, like the different ways that you could actually get some analytics on these billboards.
And that's, I think it's kind of the mix that I've seen a lot of B2B SaaS companies, B2B fintech companies get right, which is, all right, we're going to measure this in a few different ways. We're going to measure it holistically. Does our overall cost to acquire a customer come down? Can we accelerate the sales cycle? Can we increase lifetime value, right? So we're looking at some of these kind of key metrics. Then we're also looking at organic traffic to the website. Is our cost per click coming down? Is our email open rate going up, right? It's going to show up in other ways. But then specifically for out of home, you can get really good directional feedback by using some technology that uses a measure called exposed visitation rate. I would equate it most similarly to a click-through rate. So the idea behind exposed visitation rate is, hey, we've got this billboard. This billboard it's 100 feet high. It's 48 feet wide. It's this far off the road. Imagine a cone coming out from the center of that billboard. It's capturing all those people. That's called a view shed. From that view shed, we're saying this many people were exposed to the advertising. If it was a static billboard that was up all the time, obviously it's capturing everybody. If it's digital, it's based on the exact timestamp and the window, the duration that digital ad was playing. So it's actually pretty scientific the way that the audience is captured. And then from that, we're looking at cross-device matching. So does that person either from their cell phone that we observed, do they go to a website? Do they download an app? Do they go to a store? Or maybe they go home at night and they set that phone down next to their computer. And because of that cross-device matching, we are able to detect that they went to the website and finished that purchase when they got home. So now directionally, it's really amazing. So directionally, now I can tell you, all right, these are the formats that are working hardest. Your billboards are overperforming. The gym media that you have, the screens in the gym, really not working that hard. But movie theaters are interesting. The sample size is too small, but we saw really good lift from that. Brands have never had insight like that before. So for brands that are interested in kind of testing, really more the deterministic measurement, those things are available. It's definitely an exciting time.
And also, so another thing that I thought was interesting, like I saw Cody tweeting the other day, like growth is supposed to be boring. And I think that's kind of weird for us to hear because we're used to kind of pushing forward and being the gen and trying out all these different things and being scrappy, like you said, but it's supposed to be boring. And you want to run advertisements that can be sustainable for a long time. Like I saw on your blog, like TikTok was an example of something that could just be a flash in the pan and it comes and goes. But there's this billboard I used to see on my way to school. So on I-95 going to Connecticut, and it says, "Your wife is hot." And it was for pools.
For pools. Yeah.
And dude, that ad has, it's still there like 10 years later. And that guy has been running the same ad. And I'm sure everyone sees it and looks up and chuckles to themselves. And I bet you they got a shit ton of business for it. And he's just had the same ad up that entire time.
And here's the really crazy thing. What would happen if he took it down? People would wonder, they would notice, right?
Yeah.
They would notice it was gone. And
you would never do that with an online ad, right?
Ever.
If you see in, Google ads on a website, you're never going to think, "Oh, I missed that." But if you have a physical reaction to seeing something, in real life, you're going to get used to it, right? If you see it every day, you're going to get used to it. It's going to become a part of your routine.
It's like a landmark.
It's mind-blowing to me. Yeah, really. And I guess, there's so many ways of tracking how many people have seen it now. I mean, I guess things like, IoT devices, phones, watches, at some point in the future, everyone will be wearing the Apple Pro Vision crap that they're rolling out, and I'm sure they'll be able to just tell you, this person was within X amount of meters of your billboard. This counts as that they went on their iPhone and went to your website, and it's crazy.
So they're technically pieces of real estate, like you had mentioned to me a few days ago. So when you're analyzing them, right? So even if you don't want to run ads yourself, from an investor perspective, you can purchase these and they function as a REIT almost. That's what you had mentioned to me as well, right?
And that's really, I think, where the underpriced opportunity comes from is most out-of-home media companies are set up and run as real estate investment trusts. So their objective is to generate a high dividend for their investors, right? It's to take money out of the company and pay out. That's in direct conflict to a high growth media company, right? If you just close your eyes, and you don't even need to be an expert in any of these things. If you just thought, what would it look like if Google owned a billboard company? They probably wouldn't be pulling all the money out and paying a dividend. They'd be reinvesting in technology. They'd be reinvesting in growth. They'd be pushing that industry so much faster. So because of that, you are essentially buying short-term, you're leasing short-term real estate. And then you have to think of it as a marketer, right? I'm buying this real estate, or I'm renting this real estate for a period of time for this amount of money. I need to generate this return above whatever my investment here is. So like another real like degen hacky thing that I would love to see someone do. I found one guy who did it, and there's some pieces that come together on it. So maybe we could do this as a group experiment, which is to get cheap billboards. You can get cheap billboards in rural parts of the country, like especially out here by me, like those little ones you see on the side of the road might be $400, $500, $600 for a month, right? So you can buy really cheap attention and then do something like a pay-per-call affiliate link, or a pay-per-call affiliate number rather, right? And hey, we're going to sign up for an affiliate network and we're going to make XYZ amount of money each time we generate a phone call off this billboard. There's that much underpriced attention out there. I think there's opportunity for someone to do things like that.
Yeah, because even think about like the rural ones, especially, like a lot of people say, hey, when you're trying to do drop shipping or trying to do these e-com brands, instead of trying to target the younger kids, go after the older audience. And that older audience is definitely going to be paying attention to billboards as well. And that could be a nice experiment to run, like an e-com experiment where you're marketing, instead of doing Facebook ads and TikTok ads, you're running billboards. And can you get actual sales that way, or even affiliates, like you said?
People trust what they can see physically, right? So it's so I've never thought about it. I've genuinely never in my head been like, you know what, a billboard is a good idea. Now I'm thinking risk assessment. We get some nice logos, Joe. We get some billboards in every big city in the US.
Just put your face on them.
Yeah, straight up, build that brand. But no, genuinely though, right? People will trust like a cybersecurity company more if they
remember what LifeLock did in New York City.
Oh yeah,
he made a TV commercial of a truck driving around with his social security number on it, right? And that was LifeLock. That was the TV spot.
Yeah, I was like, damn man, I kind of need that shit. I was like, man, these hackers are coming for me. Like they scared the shit out of me.
Yeah. And like this guy's willing to drive a truck through New York City. He's driving a truck through Times Square with his social on it.
That's genius.
It's a really strong statement of life. It's instant credibility. It's grassroots at scale. It does so many things, but because it's not easy to measure, it gets overlooked.
Yeah, it's just also.
What about like?
Sorry, Joe. I was just going to say, from an outsider, it just sounds super expensive to me. It's physical. There's people involved, right? They're going to have to. I mean, I'm not even talking about digital billboards, physical ones, and it sounds expensive. It sounds like a lot of effort. There's people involved, going and updating them or whatever. And do we include like actual poster billboards, or is it just digital ones that you're talking about in all of this? Like, ones where they have to go and actually, put the paper on it and glue it, and it sounds crazy to me.
Yeah, and it can be a pain. And I think that's where the opportunity comes from, is it can be. Thinking about it at scale, there are really practical ways to do it at scale, whether that's wrapping a fleet of cars for a conference and driving those cars around the conference, whether that's doing 1 or 2 trucks in New York City for 3 months. Like I know a guy that does trucks in New York for $1,500 a month. You could run a truck, pick wherever you want in New York City, 6 days a week, deliveries from sun up till sundown for $4,500. But you got to be willing to stroke a check for $4,500. And I get like, that's not for everybody. I think Blip is a really practical way to get started. I think it's as low as $2 a day or $1 a day. I have run and generated leads for $1 a day on digital billboards using Blip.
Honestly,
I think Louis, bro, for risk assessment, I think that for like a B2B SaaS, if you figured out, okay, there's a big cybersecurity conference in town, I think that wrap car one is a good idea. Yeah.
Genuinely, I was just thinking in my head, we need to scope every cybersecurity conference in the US, which has more than X amount of people, and make sure that we have physical ads in that location. It'll be
For
amazing.
sure.
And there's some really practical ways to do that, right? Like, so maybe wrapping cars is outside of the budget, but there's a platform. They were actually acquired by T-Mobile not too long ago called Play Octopus. And maybe there's some folks that have even seen these in the backseat of Uber and Lyft.
We're recording.
You got me, and you can go to triadscout.com. See, that's why it exists. So they put tablets. I describe it as if you've ever gone to Olive Garden and there's the tablet on the table with the games and the stuff. It's that in the backseat of an Uber and a Lyft.
Oh, I've seen them. Yeah.
Right. The difference
That's how you know
is
your Uber's about to be a good ride. He's got the tablet and he's got the speaker system and some free water bottles.
okay. So we've obviously never talked about this before. Drivers that have these in the backseats of their cars get larger tips and have a higher rating than those who don't. So it's funny to hear you actually just say that unprompted, because that's the truth. So it's a more engaging experience. Here's what's interesting. That piece of technology, it uses Google Glass in the tablet. So it doesn't detect that it's Joe or that's Lewis or that it's Tim, but it does detect, hey, a person just got in front of this. So it's verified one-to-one impression in the physical world. The creative format is a 15 to 30 second video creative, which means it's pre-roll or mid-roll. And at certain budget thresholds, and again, this is where like sometimes there's a barrier to entry, but at certain budget thresholds, you can actually gamify your ad. So let's pretend it was some sort of interactive game, like a mobile ad, where they had to find the key that matches the lock. And when they unlock it, they get, $500 off, whatever, and they can enter their email. It's actually a lead generation tool. I've run campaigns for a cannabis company where they were getting email opt-ins from the backseat of Uber and Lyft for the same that they were through their like digital marketing campaigns.
Damn.
That's crazy.
It's crazy.
Honestly, we need to, after this, I'm going to scope out every big cybersecurity conference in the US. I'm going to have a look at Blip. It sounds so good for that.
And you can do guerrilla stuff too, right? You can go do guerrilla stuff, do stunty things, hire people to do street teams, right? Like, it doesn't have to cost a ton of money. It's really that. I guess coming all the way back, it's back to that pain threshold. Do you want to figure it out?
When we say like degen marketing, I think it's just a new way of saying guerrilla marketing, essentially.
I think so.
Everyone's trying to do like scrappy type
different,
marketing. I think,
right? Not just the usual, chuck some Google ads on and let it rip. It's,
right.
Like there's a lot of good Hinge, for example. I just off the top of my head, like Subway ads in the city. I mean, you see Hinge, the dating apps all the time. Grubhub, ZocDoc, like a lot of those. So they wouldn't be spending money if it wasn't effective. And I wouldn't remember the ads realistically if it wasn't effective, right? And I think a lot of people remember them as well. But how about local businesses? I've seen you talk a bit about like Google My Business. How can local businesses implement these strategies as well?
I think that's maybe the most untapped opportunity is local businesses kind of dialing up an appetite for being a little bit more comfortable with some risk, because the way that this shows up for local businesses are in your Google My Business. It shows up as calls. It shows up as people looking for directions to your business. It shows up in really tangible ways. And again, I think a platform like Blip is a great place for small businesses to get started too. Is it close by to my business? Let me just put up a simple billboard that lets people know I'm here. Proof of life. Our business exists. Could your business afford to reach more people? Would it hurt your business if more people knew you existed?
So I think that some people in our group, they're either running local agencies for those types of businesses, or they may have them. So how could they potentially go to their local businesses and be like, hey, I run Facebook ads, all this stuff, but I have these ideas as well. What are some things that they could potentially bring to their clients in that regard?
I think definitely with the changes that iOS 14.5 brought in, it's now a couple years back, but that brought in much smaller audiences, less targeting, less tracking, right? It definitely created some bumps for a lot of those advertisers, and specifically for the agencies that provide those services. So I think learning how to, even if it's just something as simple as doing lawn signs and digital billboards, or just doing digital billboards as a service, going in, having something new to talk about is always valuable as an agency. And leading with billboards that are really scalable for any budget is something that the local billboard company is probably not going to be able to do. So I think as an agency, offering flexibility in pricing with the advantages that billboards can obviously offer, a small business that they might be working with.
Yeah, and I gave the example as well of the container website that I was working on. Like those the target audience there are construction professionals and contractors and people like that. Those guys aren't on LinkedIn all day. Like they're actually out in the field doing work, being productive. So to try to run a LinkedIn ad for them is probably not the best idea. It'd be much smarter if I were to either hand out flyers or set up some billboards around those construction sites. And I think that's another example as well where you could get in front of them that way, utilizing these strategies here.
And something scrappy you could do if you're trying to get in front of like construction sites. This is an entire portfolio of some media companies' business, which are putting advertisements up on construction barricades, right?
Yep.
If you're trying to get in front of construction workers and there's a construction site, hey, if there's a construction barricade, figure it out. Like, again, that's the hard work. That's the hard work that's in the way, but that's the opportunity. The obstacle is the way in this case of figure out who owns that barricade. Hey, I noticed that you have this construction barricade. I'd like to advertise on it. Can I give you $200 to put a banner on this for the next month?
100%.
I'm just doing a bit of research. Sorry, I was doing a bit of research while you guys were talking, and it's actually a number that I didn't know, but I thought I'd check. So 82% of the US population are on social media and on their phones. That means 20% aren't, right? So it's such an untapped audience. I can't believe. I mean, young people as well, right? I know so many people nowadays, people my age, just going into their 30s that are just going, cold on social media. Like no Facebook, no Instagram, just completely deleting all of it, right? And just living it's becoming like a popular thing to do. The cool thing to do is just not to be on socials. So it's it seems to me like an untapped way of doing this marketing that many people will just, straight away just say, no, it's not going to work. It's not for us. But really, I guarantee that people doing this would get their money's worth from it. Just because of the amount of reach you can get from it. I'm just, honestly, you've blown my mind, Tim. I can't believe it.
Yeah, and Tim, we had Kobe on the podcast last week speaking with Cody. And Kobe is the CMO or head of growth at Rupa Health, so health tech startup. And one of the things that he said he's very excited about in relation to AI is the ability to do more physical marketing because of the level of targeting you could do and all things like that. So what opportunities are you seeing in terms of leveraging all the powerful AI technology we have now and applying it to this physical realm?
One of the most exciting things I've seen is actually a tool that's not intended for media planning or buying. It's a platform called Unearth Insights, and I think it's totally free to sign up for. I've been sharing this a lot within the kind of out-of-home community. But specifically, that tool gives you insights on every zip code in the country, the population that's there, relative to key points of interest. I want to see all the Starbucks that are around here. How many gas stations are in the state of New Mexico?
That's a write down.
That's one to take home. Unearth Insights. But then you look at there's some tactical takeaways. One of the features within that tool that's so interesting is you can drag and drop a pin. So I'm going to use New York City for this scenario because it's the most extreme example, but you can use this obviously anywhere in the continental United States. You drag, just like Google Maps, you drag the little person and drop it. And then you tell it, I want to see a 5-minute walking radius of where this pin drop is. And it will show you a 5-minute walking radius. So now imagine you're your dad's restaurant and you want to do some physical marketing to drive foot traffic during lunch. So you can see, all right, where are all the places that are within a 5-minute walk of my restaurant? Because it's not going to be a circle, right? Mm-hmm. It's going to be some weird jagged shape, but how would you know it natively? You wouldn't. There's no way that you could. Now,
so does it show you the most, like, basically you give it point A to point B and it's going to show you what route people are usually taking to get there?
Close. So in this case, we would put a pin right on the restaurant and say, show me a 5-minute walking radius of this point of interest.
Okay.
And it's going to draw that weird polygon shape. And now you know where to put the media.
There's got to be a reason, big restaurants doing it, right? McDonald's, it's probably the most common physical ad that people would see, right? In the UK, anyway. I don't know about the US, but every bus stop, every billboard, pretty much is McDonald's, fast food, and it's always within a certain, distance of the nearest restaurant, right? So as soon as you get into the city I live in, anyway, as soon as you get into 10-minute walk with McDonald's, you just start to see McDonald's billboards everywhere, and it's overwhelming to a point. That literally you can look around and you see it. But it works. As soon as you see it, you're like, oh, a McDonald's, that's a nice treat, right? I'm just going to go and maybe I'll stop by. I need to do it.
Hit you with the ping. Tim, what about targeting? So one of the big things that we talked about is you're not able to measure maybe as well as you would if you were running a digital ad. But now with AI, in terms of targeting, you could segment and say, okay, I know I have this demographic in this location, so I want to show them this specific billboard. And then you could get creative with what specific billboard you're showing in each different area.
So there's a few ways to think about targeting for out of home. Most of the programmatic kind of dedicated digital out of home demand side platforms are going to have good targeting, audience targeting. I want to reach moms between 35 and 44 who have a $150,000 and above household income with these parameters in these zip codes. They're really, really good at that. So I would say, and at least online with whatever you've done on Facebook, where I think the exciting opportunity is for targeting with out of home and offline media specifically is using commercial real estate data. And there's a platform called Placer AI, and you can get a really good taste of what they do for physical points of interest for free. There is a paid version, but this is one of the tools that I used when planning for like a B2B SaaS company. Is a tool like this because what it's looking at are insights relative to the physical real estate. And why that's important is the data used for targeting ads on the internet falls under different privacy laws as data collected for physical real estate. So this is used for commercial real estate, urban planning, hey, we're going to close this road. Which roads should we detour to, right? It's used for municipalities and commercial real estate investors and that sort of field. But what's cool about it is, let's say I'm Chewy and I want to target people that go to PetSmart. Well, I can look at all the PetSmarts in the Chicago area and I can look at which zip codes contribute the most shoppers to PetSmarts from this area. Which roads specifically do they drive on when they're going to PetSmart or when they're leaving? Because maybe when they're leaving, I want to serve up a Chewy billboard that says, hey, out of stock on dog food, visit chewy.com, get 20% off today. Right. So now it informs a media planning strategy where you can confidently invest in whatever you're buying because this is where they live, this is where they work, these are the roads they take, these people take public transit, they also shop at Target, and you can put together that real world buyer's journey.
And then you could also, so going back to the level of segmentation, let's say you're Chewy, you could also send out mailers to everyone that lives near PetSmart and hit them with like a postcard potentially as well.
Absolutely. Now that, hey, zip code 12345 contributes 65% of the visitors to this PetSmart. I'm just going to go blow out direct mail in that area.
Dude, and so Chewy one time, I never really checked mail, honestly. But one time when I lived at home, I did, and I saw a handwritten note from Chewy, and I was like, damn, that's good. I was strong. I was like, Mom, never stop ordering from Chewy. I was like, these guys, they're good. They're good guys over there. So it does like that, like putting that human touch on it as the AI wave sort of takes over. There's a lot of automation. There's a lot of bots out there. You got to figure out ways to sneak in that human element in order to stand out. And I think that leveraging this stuff for the segmentation, so you could do personalization at scale. I think that's what I'm getting at.
Yeah, personalization at scale is exactly it. And it kind of on the direct mail, you could do like retargeting direct mail. Hey, this person hit my website, reverse IP targeting stuff. We're going to try and figure out and take a pretty good guess and send you a piece of direct mail that way too. So I think just tactics like that, thinking about attention differently, is the biggest mindset shift.
So does that fall under the purview of these billboard type companies or agencies rather? Like does direct mail, is that a part of their media mix, or do they primarily handle like the display? And then there's a specialized team that does the more direct postcards, flyers, things like that.
It's actually really interesting. And I don't think there's anyone that's doing it at a really high level, which is, I don't think there's anyone as an agency that's specializing in out of home and direct mail. I think it's a huge opportunity. I think someone should definitely do it. Maybe we'll do it after we wrap this up here.
Worth an experiment, yeah.
I really have not seen anybody who's leading with billboards and direct mail, but for the local business, there might not be a better full funnel marketing stack right now if you have 100%. Out of home in your area. And if you can be scrappy and figure it out, if you don't, there's I
had an idea there. So my friend he works down in the docks, right? And he has the shop where they modify the shipping containers. He had sent me kind of like a pen pencil holder type thing, but it's a container, like one of those shipping containers that you would see on the ocean, wherever. And I was like, that'd be really cool to make one look nice and send it to the interior designers that we're looking to get in front of as a way to stand out. Send one of those, a little message, handwritten note. But where you would leverage the AI stuff is on the targeting, obviously. Like, who is the best type of person to send this to? Because you don't want to just blast them out to everyone, or it would be very expensive, obviously.
Yeah,
Yep.
I love 3D direct mail. Dan Kennedy has some great stuff on 3D direct mail. If you can figure out the list, direct mail is a great option.
That'd be a good one. What about if you've seen Mission Impossible? When they walk past the ads react to the person and show them something very targeted.
Yeah.
How far away are we from something like that?
We're there already. It's in airports. There is digital signage that has, and I don't know enough to speak on it. I've been in touch with one of the founders of one of the technology companies that's doing it. But depending on where you stand, so that the use case for the airports is we all have different flights and we'd all like to see the information that's relevant to us. Depending on where you stand, there are assigned spots to stand. You can see the relevant flight information. It's the same screen. There's dozens of people looking at the same screen and everyone's seeing something different, arguably dynamic. So we're there from a technology delivery standpoint. I think what's coming and what's exciting is thinking about app integration into screens. I think the real world becoming more engaging, more personalized. Imagine you're a parent and you have Pokemon Go on your phone. I don't know if that's still a thing, but this was a hypothetical that we were playing with a few years ago. And we're still not there yet, but imagine you walk by and Pikachu pops onto the screen at the mall. And now you're forced to stop because your kid's going to say, Mommy, Daddy, Pikachu, and you're going to take your phone out and you are not going to be able to pass go until you complete whatever the heck is going on that screen. So
that was like when I begged for the Pokemon. Yeah, when I used to like go to the dentist or anything back in the day, they used to have to buy me Pokemon cards.
Got to, right? It's always a bribe. My son got a tooth taken out yesterday. It's, it's like dealing with terrorists, but thinking about that, thinking about personalization, that could be anything. It could be, hey, I'm on the Nike app and I want to check a live lead. I'm running in New York and I want to check a live leaderboard of everyone that's running in New York right now. That's cool. Like, what a cool brand experience for Nike. So those are the opportunities that get me excited about personalization and delivering that experience. And then also seeing the explosion of retail media networks, Amazon, just everyone's talking about retail media. What's the job to be done? I want to reach decision makers when they're spending money. 83+% of commerce still takes place offline in a physical store, right?
For sure.
It's a trap. Like, D2C only accounts for 15 to 17% of sales in the United States. And that's the most anyway.
That's pulling back post-COVID as well. Like, we thought it was the new normal, but it's kind of reverting.
The trend's going the other way. People want to be in the physical space. They want to touch it. They want to feel it. They want to smell it. They want to be outside. And that's not going to stop. So I think that's the trap, is that the majority of the opportunity, the underpriced attention, it's offline, but because it doesn't come with a shiny dashboard and it's not necessarily easy, people run away.
Yeah,
exactly. And also, I think that the difference between the AI wave and, for example, like the crypto Web3 wave, the AI wave provides tangible benefits if you take the time to learn this stuff, because A, you could automate things that you hate doing, and B, it allows the busy entrepreneur like my dad, who never really wanted to pay attention to marketing, it allows him to do things that he previously just didn't have the time or technical know-how to do. So even you, as an example, with your podcast, I know you've been leveraging AI to automate a lot of your workflow. So could you maybe talk about that a bit and how it's helped you personally?
I don't come from any independent wealth or fame, so I like to think that being resource restricted is an advantage because it forces you to find creative solutions. And I've been doing a podcast about out of home for maybe 4 years now in October. And I just kept going. I just kept making the next episode. And there were periods where there was some financial support. I worked at a startup and they gave me a budget and I had a social media team and a production team. But it was still never growing. I'd never intentionally focused on growing a podcast. And it really wasn't until I found this community on Discord and kind of like the DGens on Twitter and like this community specifically, that I started to look at the podcast from a growth standpoint. And I sat down one day and I said, okay, I don't have the money to hire anyone. I'm not going to take fundraising. But if I could hire people to do some of the jobs that I wish someone would do for me, what would those job descriptions look or sound like? And I ended up coming up with, okay, I would have, a team of copywriters, people to do the show notes, people to do the descriptions, to do all this stuff for me. Cause that's hard. The tags, all that stuff. I wish I had a team to do that. And I wish I had a team to do all the video production. I'd love to be like Alex Hormozy, who wouldn't, right? Like have social clips on every platform, just in tonnage every day. So I'm like, I'd love to have a team of video producers, and I don't want to do any of the work. I wish that there was someone that would just distribute all of it for me, right? I just want to record podcasts. I don't want to be a production team or a social media marketing team or a team of copywriters. I want to do those things. So I wrote these little job descriptions out. I started looking. And the first thing I found was Swell. I found Cody on Twitter and I found Swell. I was like, oh, okay, there's my team of copywriters. Cool. I don't have to do this stuff anymore. Getting just that space back in my brain, that gave me energy. That gave me hope. Like, okay, these are now things I don't even have to think about doing. All I have to do is put eyeballs on it and make sure it like makes sense. Maybe I make it sound a little bit more like me or whatever, but 85% of the work is done. Awesome. It's more time with my son. It's more time doing the things I want to do, going for walks, listening to podcasts, whatever. So, okay, found a team of copywriters. Now I need to find a team of video producers. I'd been editing my own podcast in a platform called Veed, and not too many edits, just adding like an intro and an outro music, whatever. Not big video editor by any means. I went to school for finance, so this is all self-taught. I assure you, anyone listening can figure this stuff out. So then I found Opus for making the short form clips. So then I said, okay, now I can give Opus a 30-minute podcast. It's going to give me back 20 clips. Of those 20 clips, 6 to 8 of them are going to be good enough. And this is important. So I'll just point this out right now. A friend of mine ran a big part of, if folks know Gary Vee, a friend of mine will be on the podcast in a couple of weeks. So we'll come back and share the podcast. We're catching up recently. He started his own agency. We were talking about this exact workflow. And he said, Tim, that's where most people get tied up, is they think it's about the quality. It's not. The quality matters far less than the long-term consistency. And I was like, shit, like, honestly, I just never gave it enough time. I never gave it enough time because I didn't have the bandwidth to do all the things I wanted to do. So I just got overwhelmed. So now I've got Swell being my team of copywriters. I have Opus creating the clips. All I do now is I do post edit on the clips. I spend about 2 to 3 minutes per clip. So now I look at an hour's worth of time differently. I sit down and I say, okay, it's going to take me 3 minutes per video. I'm going to focus for an hour. If I focus for an hour, I'm going to be able to create 10 to 20 clips. And I can come back later, spend 30 minutes, post them all on YouTube. And then I use a platform called repurpose.io. And that pushes all of my content out from YouTube to all of the socials. My LinkedIn, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, the short form content, the long form content. It's all done. I just set up a schedule, a posting schedule, and it does it for me. So the things that I used to never even be able to do, I do in an hour and a half, and I'm done.
Yeah, it's fucking crazy.
Yeah.
So that's been an exciting unlock. I put it together as a course for people that want to see like the exact over the shoulder process. And I'll make that available after we finish recording this. I'm going to finish putting it together. So I'll definitely share a link out for folks that want to jump on that. But the process I just described is how to do it. So you just got to be willing to figure it out.
No, it helped me a shit ton because I spent like 2 days, I think, just really, it was really manual and really tedious and just not very intelligent. The way that I was sending something out on YouTube, and then I was doing the podcast and then the newsletter, and I was like, there's got to be a better way. And then when I saw your workflow, I was like, oh shit, this is a lifesaver.
Yeah.
And Opus is awesome too, man. Yeah.
You can pump out so much more with all of those tools. It's kind of like with the AI, articles and the niche blogs and stuff. It just enables you to really focus on the outcome, right? Getting to that point, and it just allows you to pump out so much more content. And that, like you said, that's the key bit: consistency and just having stuff with people.
It is intimidating for people like us who are self-taught. When you see Gary Vee, Hormozy, My First Million, you see the level of quality and you just see they're all over, and you're like, I can never do that. But you can get pretty close with the workflows and tools that are available now. And you don't have to hire, because even like hiring VAs are great, but you have to teach the VA what you want. You have to be very specific. There's a lot of back and forth. And then all of a sudden that becomes another headache that you're like, fuck it, I don't want to do this anymore.
You don't want to manage it.
So,
And in the same time that you're spending managing that, I've already released another 7 hours worth of content,
Exactly.
and you won't catch up. You just won't catch up. It's actually to the point where, like, I called a friend right before this, just laughing about it. Like, never in my life did I think I'm going to teach a course on this workflow. I taught this workflow earlier today. The teaching part took me about 13 minutes. I will spend about 2.5 hours total putting it through the whole workflow, turning it into a course and all of that stuff, and have it live available for sale. Never in my life did I think that time was going to be in this lifetime. Like, I grew up with no internet, right? Like, I can still remember what it was like to not have the internet. And I just created a course that I know will save people hundreds of hours of figuring it out for yourself, create millions of dollars in enterprise value for agencies that do these things. It's just an incredible time to be in. So to be in the arena with you guys, there's no better place to be.
Dude, it makes it a lot easier. It makes it a lot easier when you could bounce ideas and just learn. And also having other people who are going through the beginner stages, it helps hold you accountable. I always give you the example of Muay Thai class. When I used to take those, you felt very guilty skipping one of those classes because you knew that, like, the trainers would be like, "Oh, this kid's a little bitch," like all this stuff. Like the other kids in the class are like, "Yo, he didn't show up today. He's sleeping in." So I would always go, even though I didn't want to. But when it came to building a business, it was very easy to flake on myself because I didn't have anyone to hold me accountable. So that's why I like having the group dynamic, because it brings some of that same energy to building your side projects and building your entrepreneurial ventures.
It's always been the same for me. Always kind of, did something, and then after, 2-3 weeks, no one's holding you accountable, and you just kind of, okay, I'm not seeing instant results, give up on it, right? Whatever. Next thing. With PJ in the Discord channel, it's just, Bulk Dog, for example. It just motivates me to. There's no income for Bulk Dog, right? It's an experiment mainly, and something that I can just share. And even though no one's going to say, "Hey, Lewis, you haven't posted an update on Bulk Dog in a while," it just sets like a thing in the back of my mind. Like, I want to continue with it and keep on sharing because people get some value out of just listening or reading about it. And every single tweet about Bulk Dog, I get likes on. It's people enjoy reading about it, seeing the ups and the downs, which I'm having right now with it. But I'm kind of excited to get back to a point where it's on the up and get over this hurdle that we're having with it right now. I'm excited to just keep on sharing with it. And if that happened before the Discord channel, I would have just given up on Bulk Dog. It would have been gone by now. The website would have been deleted as soon as the impressions just hit 0. It would have been okay. Something's broke. There was no income from it. So what's the point in carrying on? So at least you get this like community vibe, right? And everyone's interested. Everyone wants to see how it goes, and the sharing dynamic makes it interesting.
For sure, man. Tim, any closing thoughts for the boys here before we wrap this up?
I had one last question.
Yeah, please go for it.
Wrap it up, and I just want to know your biggest success, Tim. With and I know you probably have some good stories about it, but I want to know what you can achieve with the OOH method.
I'm gonna give you the most incredible story that I've seen, and it might not be relatable for everyone, but I think there's a lesson in it for everyone, which is to have a tolerance to test. This was for a brand, a direct consumer company that I would say sells a luxury product. They sell puppies, very high-end puppies, and they wanted to test out of home. They had scaled using performance marketing tactics, and they had a pretty high lifetime value of a customer, right? The puppies were about $5,000 each. So if they could just continue scaling customer acquisition, then great. Let's just scale to the moon. But they'd kind of hit that threshold with digital. So they were starting to try offline channels, and they approached my team at the time and they said, all right, we're going to do radio. And then we're going to do radio in these markets. And then we want to do radio plus out of home in this one market. We want to test it in Phoenix. We want to test radio and out of home in Phoenix. Will that help us to sell more puppies? At the time, Phoenix was their bottom 3 performing market. It was one of the bottom 3 worst markets. Like, maybe wasn't going to be a market that they continued to pursue. All they changed about their marketing mix was adding radio and billboards, and Phoenix went from a bottom 3 performing market to the number 2 market for the company.
Damn.
It was all they changed. They did nothing else different. They didn't increase the supply of puppies. They did nothing else. And I think that ultimately speaks to, right, that's it in an extreme circumstance. That's a brand that's got a bunch of money to spend.
Yeah.
So if that's what they're feeling with a lot of money, your business is going to benefit from even a smaller budget. It just might not show up as going from number 3 to, a number 2 market. But it's going to be there. Just be open-minded to finding it.
Hell yeah.
Sweet.
Good stuff, brother. Well, we appreciate your time. If you want to discuss the things that we talked about on the podcast with the community, jump in the Prompt Jockeys Discord. We are all relatively new at this, so do not feel bad if you don't know what you're doing, because we don't really either. We're just learning as we go. So
I didn't
jump in, join the conversation. Yep. And
There's 600 people in there, right? And someone will be able to help. With,
there's a few. There's actually smart people. That's who we learn from. So,
exactly.
Yeah, man, appreciate your time. Looking forward to running some experiments together in the near future.
Definitely.
Yeah,
Thanks again for having me, guys.
Might take a lifetime to know just who you are.
Quarter century, I finally came to my senses. I finally got my hand up on the tinted Benz, kid. I see the world clear through my tinted lenses. With the dream and the drive, the possibilities endless. Now print that, send this all the way to Tokyo. Take a trip down south, down to Mexico. Next stop, Shanghai, the world-class trade show. First class all the way, cause that's how we roll. Yeah, call us the rock star businessman. Rockin' shows, we handle business, man. We got our own future in the palm of our hands, cause divided we fall and together we stand.